As you can see, in this deployment of resources is occurring, you'll see that the resource, unlike MySQL on Azure, it's a MySQL deployment has currently been accepted, and I can actually monitor the operation details of that as well and look at the stage on what the process is and where it's running. You'll have this continuous refresh happening in your portal here that will keep track of the deployment. And once this is then deployed, of course, you will be able to configure that server connect, which then allows us to start doing the necessary initialization to consider the migration progress. So let's have a look back at the presentation and talk about these migration tools and capabilities that we have around this. So let's have a look at migration tools. One of the common tools we'll be using to perform migrations is Azure Migrate. Azure Migrate provides a central hub of tools to start, run, track, and analyze your migration journey to Azure. It's a free Microsoft service with the tools for each scenario available without any additional licensing cost. The Azure Migrate Hub integrates Azure services and partner solutions to maximize your options and your decisions. So if you want to perform a Windows Server and Linux migration, a SQL and non-SQL database migration, or a web app assessment and migration using App Migration Service, or a virtual desktop migration, or using a data migration using Databox, or performing holistic across VMware, Hyper-V physical server migrations to Azure, and whether or not this is an on-premises, an AWS or a GCP migration, the Azure Migrate service will allow you to really bundle this all together as a unique migration platform, bundling and assessing your workloads, giving you these capabilities to perform all of these migrations with a single pane view of how these migrations work. Now, one of the other tools that integrates with Azure Migrate is the Database Migration Service, or DMS. When we think about DMS, again, we're talking about a service which enables you to perform large-scale database migrations from within the Azure portal, or integrate and combine some of the functionality of existing tools and services to provide you with a comprehensive, high available migration tools. The Database Migration Service actually combines a set of database migration tools such as the Database Migration Assistant, SQL Server Migration Assistant, and the Data Experimentation Assistant. So you have a streamlined process of database migration in a single place, allowing you to perform database-sensitive migrations and move the data, the schema, and the objects over to Azure. It's a very easy to understand process that will help you to get the job done right at the first time, with support for SQL Server migrations, MySQL, PostgreSQL, MongoDB, and Oracle migrations to Azure from on-premises and other clouds over into Azure. One of the other options when we think about MySQL migration is the ability to perform a data migration using the MySQL Workbench. So that allows you to export and import data from source to target. So you would be able to download MySQL Workbench, install that on your operating system of choice to granularly select which tables you want to import, which database objects, whether or not you want to have specific views, stored procedures, constraints, and functions, and really granularly move those over. It actually is a very common scenario where some applications might just need to have a subset of the environment to be migrated and moved over. And you can migrate from not only use MySQL Workbench to migrate from your MySQL database, you actually would also be able to use this from text files and then use MySQL import to go add these tables into your database destination. So data import and export MySQL Workbench gives you that wizard-based UI to do a full or a partial export and import of individual database objects. One of the other options to perform a migration in an offline fashion is by using dump and